And Vasily Levitt,
in the red
strongly
corner,
fancied.
representing Kazakhstan, Vasily Levy.
Number 1 seed, Vasily, decorated fighter. 3 times he's won Asian Championship gold, 2017, 2015, and all the way back in 2009. He got a bronze medal a couple of years ago. When he won in 2017, actually, he was the only non-Uzbek fighter to get a gold medal. World Championship medals as well, silver at Rio in 2016. That should have been gold against Evgeny Tishchenko, an absolutely scandalous decision. The WSB winner as well, so that's plenty for Sanjeet, who's making his way to the blue corner to have to deal with, but he's a number 2 seed, and the number 2 seed for a reason. Got past Sanjay Tursunov of Uzbekistan, the number 3 seed in the semi-finals, quarter-finalist at the World Championships in 2019, so he doesn't have the glittering resume of Vasily Levitt, but as you've been saying, again, this is number 1 against number 2, so these two have lived up to their billing up until this point.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. A good career, a veteran, established, vastly experienced, multiple winner in Vasily Levitt. They did meet 3 years ago in the President's Cup, and it was Levitt who won on that occasion by a second round stoppage. Whether any of that is at the back of the mind of Sanjeet, we shall see. But he's on a bit of a roll right now. Looking forward to this again.
So there goes the bell. Vasily Levitt of Kazakhstan, the number 1 seed in red. Sanjeet of India, the number 2 seed in blue. He's had a fantastic time of it in this competition. Levitt, as outlined, he's been a little bit unlucky, possibly on occasion. In the World Championships, a couple of bronzes there. That silver in Rio was extremely unfortunate. A nice 1-2 there from Sanjeet. Levitt just taking those feet back in straight lines a bit. Felt that one.
Sanjeet, I suppose the younger, fresher man, all of that experience and talent, and medals are plenty for Levitt, but he is, what, 9 years younger, Sanjeet? And he's had a little bit of pro experience as well. I always think about that it can be a positive and a negative, Andy, because you get used to fighting perhaps in a more relaxed, composed rhythm, and yet you come back to this discipline and it's a much more altogether sprint distance.
It's very, very different, isn't it? That was what was interesting before Rio, when AIBA announced that professionals would be allowed to enter. There was all sorts of nonsense spoken by people who, some of whom should have known better, some of whom were just woefully ill-informed about how professionals would come into the Olympics and clean up against these callow, inexperienced top international amateurs. It was just never, ever going to happen, because it's a different kind of discipline altogether.
Well, you saw it with Delphine Persoon, didn't you? I think, who, you know, is given Katie Taylor torrid times, not once but twice in the pro ranks, and yet in Olympic qualifiers was found wanting. You know, the styles obviously sometimes different, but the talent pool in these elite championships is just terrific.
Right hand was cocked and ready to go there from Sanjeet, but he didn't throw it. Levitt just looking to try and use that jab into the final minute of round 1. Nice and light on those feet there, Levitt. Then a good right hand. Levitt with a wealth of WSB experience. I remember seeing him in an absolute epic against Erislandi Savon in 2015 at the end of the first day of competition. Cuba desperately needed to win it, and Savon just got over the line. Nice left hand there on the inside from Levitt.
Yeah, only time he ever lost in the World Series boxing as well, Levitt. Gives you a sense of how long he's been doing this, how good he has been. I mean, it's, what, 12 years ago he was fighting Clemente Russo in a World Championships, for goodness sake, and Russo seems like a fighter from a different generation, and here we're still talking about Levitt.
So that's the first round in the books. Sanjeet giving a good account of himself there in the opening 3 minutes. Levitt with the cleaner, more effective punching of the two, you would say. I mentioned earlier on the investigation that that the IND board of directors launching into the organisation's past, and one of them was the events of the Rio Olympic Games of 2016, and the image that people remember is Michael Conlon after that fight against Vladimir Nikitin because of his reaction, and it was a terrible decision, but not as bad probably as the decision that saw Levitt lose out to Evgeny Tishchenko.
So he'll consider himself unlucky not to have picked up an Olympic Games medal. He's picked up plenty of others along the way, and 4 of them in this, well, gold that is, in this particular tournament from junior level as well, up to senior, where he's already bagged 3 off them. Only a bronze a couple of years ago, and favourite to be going a couple better this time around. It just looks like he's a little more settled behind his boxing, but I'm looking forward to seeing if Sanjeet can find the answers. Nice body shot from him.
So good jabbing there from Sanjeet at the start of the round. He is the taller of these two. He's got the reach advantage that will come with that height, and if he can try and use that, if he can employ that, snap that jab and catch Levitt with it on the way in. It doesn't have to be clean to the head all the time. Shoulders, gloves, forearms, kind of anything will do really. It just makes him offset. Need to get his balance back and start again. If he gets into that kind of area there, Levitt, that's where he's in business.
And as you say, Andy, regarding scoring in boxing at all levels is always has been and always will be a relatively contentious subject. What you need to iron out in any discipline, any organisation, is the ones that seem at odds with perhaps the balance of it. And I mean, tonight, for example, there's been some really competitive close fights. I would say all of them, bar maybe one. Maybe Zorov is the only one I might say, well, you know what, actually I didn't quite see it like that. And that's what you want. You want to iron out as many of those as possible. And tonight's been really competitive, but I think the judging's been pretty good.
Good left hand there from Sanjeet as he was moving away. And that's exactly what that investigation, that independent investigation, is supposed to be all about. That's exactly what it will be all about, and it's good to see. It's the final minute of round 2. Sanjeet just leaning in and holding on a little bit there.
There's a bit more energy, urgency from Levitt, isn't there, in this round? He's wanted to get on the front foot. He's working behind his jab. He's letting the right hand go behind it as well. There's a kind of energy about Levitt in this round. I'm sure at the age of 33, getting out of bed for the runs in the morning isn't as easy as it was 10 years ago, that's for sure. But it's great credit to him, the amount of effort he's put in this round, and there's technique behind it too.
Into the final few seconds of round 2. Nice little right hand on the inside there from Levitt. Again, just steps in and throws that right up close.
Yeah, he's completely outworking Sanjeet, isn't he, in this round? He's telling the younger man, this is what it takes if you want to be the best. And so Sanjeet knows that more will be required in the final round. They've been entertained tonight, those that are lucky enough to be ringside, to enjoy the championships.
He's qualified for Tokyo. Vasily Levitt as well won the qualifying competition, actually the Asian Oceanian tournament that took place in Amman in Jordan in the end. Sanjeet actually was expecting to be boxing on home turf. This competition was due to take place in his home city, and you mentioned it earlier on that would have been a real disappointment for the Indian fighters not to get the opportunity to to enjoy that. Hopefully it'll come back around for them.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, at his age, you know, he's still in his early 20s. Hopefully there's going to be plenty more to come for him. Levitt coming towards the end of a fine career, even although the big lads traditionally can go on a little bit longer.
Climbing into that left hand there, Levitt. He's got a slightly beleaguered look about him, Sanjeet. He's been competitive, absolutely, all the way from the start of this fight, but Levitt brings a level of pressure, and real educated pressure, which is difficult to kind of live with, really. He puts on a very good example of how you do close that gap against somebody with a greater reach, how you do get inside that lead hand and then work up close.
His work rate and ethic is just an absolute lesson to anyone here. He's been clipped a couple of times on the way in, but he is letting his hands go, and it's educated pressure too, as you say, Andy, and he is throwing 3 or 4 punches more at a time than Sanjeet. Sanjeet's landed the odd one in that exchange. You saw him tell with the right hand when he landed it, but it is rare punches. There's just one here or there. So much more coming from Vasily Levitt, and it's a real credit to him and a real example to others.
The punch output is formidable, and he just lets those hands go. He doesn't really look to load up with anything. He just lets the boxing flow, looking to try and use the jab there into the final minute.
Well, it's the old Marvin Hagler line, isn't it, about, you know, sleeping in silk pajamas but still getting up at 5 in the morning. And you know, Vasily Levitt's not necessarily, we're not talking about the same financial remunerations by any stretch, but the point about hunger and desire and maintaining it all the way throughout your career, even as you go up the ladder, even as you get a little bit older, the kind of sentiments are still the same, and I think Levitt is definitely bearing that out tonight.
Completely the same, and it's dealing with the disappointments too, because elite level performers, whatever the sport is, they tend to forget their wins quite quickly and dwell on the defeats, and morale can be eroded over a period of time, but there are still things that he wants to achieve. This will be his 4th Asian Championship gold, which is an astonishing achievement, really, but there are still things out there for him. There are still things he wants to do, and the Olympic Games at the end of the year, that is towards the end of the year, that's absolutely one of them, and he's won this fight, and he's won it with plenty to spare, hasn't he? This has been the most one-sided final that we've seen today, and that's not meant as a criticism of Sanjeet, who gave it everything he had there, but he just couldn't really do much with Levitt.
No, and I said, you know, Levitt's been a lesson to any young fighter coming through. Tonight's been a lesson as well for Sanjeet about what's required. If you want to get to where Levitt is and has been, this is what's required. Whatever it is, in terms of approach, dedication, mentality in the ring, all of that. Hopefully a learning curve. Wow. Sanjeet, it is. Who gets it? I'm surprised.
I'm very surprised. I don't quite know what to say about that, to be honest. It's 29-28.
Sanjeet getting it working on that occasion. There was just so much work in that second round and third round, particularly from Levitt. And I was going to say, you were talking about the Olympics and what still might be on his horizons, Levitt, and you'd have to feel that maybe as top elite men and women of whatever denomination in whatever sport, they do tend to motivate themselves, and maybe any simmering resentment from the Olympic Games might just be the motivation for Levitt. That might be one of the things that's driving him on towards Tokyo.
Absolutely. There's always something that they can pinpoint, that they can look for. But I think he's been unlucky there. I think he's been unfortunate there, to say the least. It's not like Sanjeet didn't have some success. He did have some success, but in that second and third round, it was Levitt who had the better of it. He could maybe have won that opening round, Sanjeet.